Hey folks, Nick Tuckert here. Oh yeah, got stuff on my shirt. With the Historical Fencing Guild. Pardon my rather disheveled appearance. Just got home from Illinois. Looked out the back door. Oh joy. Anyway, before we get into the program, the Historical Fencing Guild, like all the programs that I do, are made possible by the Independent Creator Directory at IndieCD.org, your one-stop shop for the best and the brightest authors, musicians, creatives, all here to help you become the best that you can be as an author, as someone looking to shop small. You want to get great books, great art from real people without having to deal with Bezos or Zuck, perhaps. Consider going there. And for a small fee, you can join their ranks for a one-time lifetime fee of $40, where you'll have online hosting for your assorted endeavors. A great many of the people you find in the chats on my programs tend towards that wonderful organization. I'm a proud member. I also am made possible by sales. I was actually made possible by my Patreon members, Off in the Woods, Frog G, Ronald Rain, Bladed Thesis, Brian K. Morris, Cindy Kep, and Steve Augusto. And for as little as $1 a month, you can help me keep the lights on, keep getting gear, and keep this channel running to be of service to you, the independent creators, the small-time swordsmen, the people trying to learn and get up and build their art. If you're interested further, you can consider my books, The Simple Sword, The Fighting Axe, and The Simple Spear, all part of my ongoing series of Western martial arts manuals designed to help you go from having never handled a sword to being proficient and being able to pass that set of skills on to others. I am working in my pile of to-do works on another set of books for this series. And I need to know from you what you want me to focus on next, because I've had a good petition for short swords. And if that is something you're interested in, please let me know. Now, with all that being said, I do also want to point you guys down to the Purple Heart Armory link. This is my affiliate link for PHA, which will allow you, well, you guys, it won't cost you anything, but I will get a small percentage for any purchases. So if you're planning to shop through PHA, go through my link. And importantly, it lets Christian Dorse know that I'm out here promoting his stuff, and I know what people are looking for in trainers and weapons, etc. So let me get into my comments real quick, and we will go through the comments rather quickly, and then we'll get into this week's topics, because I've got some good stuff. But Alex Creations, first through the door. Good morning, Alec. How are you doing, good sir? Or evening it is. Oh, God, I am still a little scattered. This is what happens when I come scooting in late. How was your day? Says Foxy. Hey, Foxy, how you doing? It says it was okay. Some ups and downs. How about yours, Foxy? Foxy was frustrated. Too much time on hold. Things okay. And now things get postponed for a couple days till I have more time to deal with it. Sometimes you have to. Well, get things started. Me too. Got to have a phone these days. Yeah, you do. Oh, the plus size internet was down this morning, so redid my nails. Oh, that's fun. Alec agrees. Pretty nails are always good. Flowers and rainbows. That's awesome. Kind of love the nail stickers. Makes things so much easier to have nice looking nails because I'm not good at painting them. That makes sense. And they look pretty good too. I think they're comparable to my mom's, and she pays a lot for hers. And I had to ask for a minute because of some stuff going on in the background, which you guys were kind enough to provide. Now, what I want to talk about this week. I had some interesting commentary come my way, basically on what is the effectiveness and the point of some trainings. And Because the theory being, why wouldn't you train in stick fighting? You're never, are you just going around carrying a stick everywhere? Where's the practical in the streets application? Well, that is a valid question, and I want to address that. First off, I am a firm believer that you are never truly unarmed. There is always something that can be used to as a force multiplier to improve your situation and possibly lessen that of your opponent. Now, this could be everything from the sun coming in the window to the strap holding your underwear up. There's always something, unless you are in a complete, you know, translucent lit room and you're in your starkers, you are always armed. But understanding the ability to take mundane objects into defensible objects and to make those types of decisions very quickly and efficiently are is a skill that, if you are thinking in terms of self-defense, I would say you want to learn to adapt, how to equip yourself in a situation quickly and efficiently. And Kitty says, yes. So, and hi, Kitty. Glad to see you. Yeah, I walk around with my rope dart in my pocket every day. Many people walk around with sticks, and when they don't, you can always grab a tree branch, a mop handle, a plunger. And Foxy says, death by plunger, what a crappy way to go. Now, all jests aside, I am a big fan of especially the wooden plunger, because if you even holding up a plunger is going to deter a lot of people because it's gross. Now, I will always lean, whenever possible, when we're talking self-defense applications, to deterrent before application. Because if I can diffuse, distract, or deter the conflict before it happens, I have won. The ultimate tactic is when you win the war without ever having to fire a shot, folks. And grossing your opponent out can really, really work in a life or death situation. Now, if you are heavily planning to use a plunger, I would probably say take the second to step on the plunger head and unscrew the wooden part from the plunger head and use the handle. It's more effective. But an example, in the bathroom. Oh my, I am unarmed. I'm in the bathroom. Is there a toilet seat you can rip off? Is there a toilet lid you can rip off? Is it a residential toilet? They usually have a ceramic lid that's over where the ball cock and all that stuff is. The float valves. Better than nothing. You don't. It's funny because in writing, when I'm talking on my other program, Never Mind the Furthermore, which is on the sister network to this, the Nicholas Tockert channel, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I'm always telling them, when you're getting into writing, you need to get over the everything or nothing and go for something or nothing, for the purpose of building up. Hello, Trey. If you missed it, they basically had me open right up into Albrecht mode. So having the potential to deploy a weapon that is not how do I want to put this? Perfect for the situation is a whole lot better than not having one. Usually, there are points where you don't want to have a weapon at all, especially if law enforcement are involved. But you can see you want proof. This is my chosen replacement. So when I get too gray and fall over, or, a seed truck splatters me, I trust Trey to take over just about everything I do with this sort of thing, with the caveat that my book sales and such go to taking care of Xander, because obviously. But the premise is understanding what's available, paying what I like to call tactical awareness, because you have situational awareness. What is going on? Where are the exits? Tactical awareness is when something goes boink, what can I deploy to improve my odds of survival? And that can be anything from knowing that it's time to put your head down and shut up and let the bank get robbed because you're not paid to take care of it, to talking the guy trying to rob your store down, to being faster on pulling a knife than a guy trying to pull a gun at close range and having to have conversations. There are a lot of incidents that can happen where your response has to be moderated. And you have to look at what you have access to. Now, what's interesting is Thesis is saying, I cannot carry my Hanjin everywhere I go. I wish I could, but the laws are dumb and say you can carry 14 pistols, an assault rifle, and a shotgun, but any blade over 6 inches is bad. I will be the first to say that I believe that to be unconstitutional. I will always say that I believe that to be unconstitutional. If people want to have the firearms discussion, they can have the firearms discussion anytime they want. And while I have opinions on it, that is not where I'm broaching with this part of it. I'm saying that our forefathers had knives and swords in mind when they set up the Second Amendment. Hard stop. Shall not be infringed. Boom. Do you have to work with laws that are potentially unjust? Absolutely. You find a way to work around them. Now, and we've got greens for Trey. I'm just having to flip to keep the conversation flowing right. But I can find an analog that still uses the skills of a sword without carrying one. And yes, this is where your canes, if you're going to carry a cane and you need a cane, or you might need a cane, having a cane is a wonderful sword simulating object in SSO. Now, there are some tricks to blunt weapon retention and conservation of force, where if you are forced in that situation where you need to be able to use a blunt weapon, you have the obligation. And I've seen Thesis use a short stick as a gin replacement, still effective. You have an obligation to learn, for your own sake, some of the differences and drill in them as best you can. Because one thing I say is there are the weapons we love. All right? I love my Bilbao. My Spanish, this is technically a Spanish broadsword, colonial Spain. Oh, I adore this weapon. And if I had a tactical quality version of this, something that would be a little more sturdy for actual combat, don't think I wouldn't have it rigged. But I don't, and I can't find anyone who wants to make one because they don't want my money. But just aside, can I make that go? Can I make a rapier go? Yes. Nick, do you seem a little bold on that subject? Because I am. I can make it go. But am I likely to be able to carry that? Now I can carry my cane or my walking stick, and I do because I am disabled, and I'm to the point where I don't feel quite so bad about admitting that. And I am to the point where I actually use my placard and park in front of Walmart so that I can actually do the store when I'm by myself and then come back and get in my truck after I've put my cart away, because even though I'm a bit gimpy, I'm not a monster. And woohoo, I got to shop without blinding agony. That's why these spaces exist. But if you don't think I can't make a eyebrow length, or shoulder length, Joe or Bo, depending on who you're talking to, staff go, you don't know me very well. I've trained in it because I carry it. With my walking canes, same thing. I train in it. I make sure my canes are sturdy enough that if I have to use them defensively, they are applicable. This is preparation. Slightly different skill. It's connected, but it is slightly different. Being able to assess what is surrounding you that can be used as a weapon, how to deploy it, and when not to, takes a mental, a form of mindfulness. And it's very funny because I speak to people, and there is you need to be aware, you need to be calm. Sorry, I have a yawn. You need to be in the moment. You need to be mindful of what's going on right now, not the past, not the future. This is great. This is a wonderful thing, but it has a very different feel to somebody who was brought up with hypervigilance as a virtue. The system is always running. And that's good. I've developed it. It has its negatives, but it's kept me alive enough times that I don't see that as a negative overall. So if I'm going to have a system, I want to always underestimate my odds just a bit. I want a level of comfortable applied cowardice. Because I want to be where, if pressed, I might surprise myself. That means I'm not telegraphing anything. You get what I'm saying? I also want to choose always the real life conflict subject. If I'm dealing with a threat, I want to neutralize it. Getting out, leaving before it happens. This is how you neutralize it. If things go wrong and you have to defend yourself and you have to use weapons or whatever, then you want to use minimum force. You are working towards escape, not victory. Okay? You don't want to win the fight. You want to get them down, distracted, disarmed if possible, distracted, disabled for long enough for you to leave. That is the legal, as my understanding of self-defense. It's not perfect. I'm not a lawyer. Please seek real legal advice. But the only way we're going to process this is by training, and training with what you carry. So if Kitty is carrying a rope dart everywhere she goes, groovy, it could feel a little premeditated and weird when the police get involved, because afterwards, if you are in a conflict, one thing that I've been suggested by many people is you want to be the first person to call the police, because the police usually believe the first person who calls story. Not always, but usually you are working from an advantage. That way you can make sure you are telling the truth in a reasonable manner that doesn't necessarily spin negatively on you, because the bad guy's going to lie. And I've seen a lot of cases. Someone very dear to me was in the street. He was just in a parking lot chatting, and a drunk guy came up across the parking lot to yell at him, yelled at him, belted him across the chops. And then when he was responded to, pulled his badge out because he was an off-duty cop. And that person would be in jail probably still if it weren't for the happenstance that one of the bank security cameras caught it all. And even in that case, the one second. We had someone pop up speaking in a language I did not understand. And the only thing I saw was WhatsApp, which I did not think was something that needed to be bandied around. So we got rid of it. So they are off. I hope I didn't misunderstand that, but you know, I don't have a lot of wiggle room. People mess with things in this channel. So why did I say that? Why did I tell that story about the gentleman who got jacked by the cop? And of course, the charges were dropped with the understanding that no other charges would be pressed. And Jin said, Jin, Bled says, while I'm sweeping or mopping at work, I go over different staff Jin forms. Absolutely. So let's go over our classes again, because there is a class of weapon I don't get into a lot, and I'm not sure if I have a good emulator for it. I'm looking. I'm sure I do somewhere, but everything's a little too long, actually, for what I have handy. Wait, what are you? After fashion, I do. And that is the 1 to 2 foot long stick. Now, please remember, YouTube, I am, believe it or not, a trained professional. Do not attempt any of this. But we're going to ignore the axe on the bottom of this. A stick roughly this long, so roughly your forearm length, is a very formidable weapon and tool. There are several systems that one can use that will teach you the basics of that. And you'll find that it also parses over to more weaponized approaches. And that's more something you need to look into. Right now, Doug Markida, who I absolutely adore. I mean, the man is a genius. And he's a bit of a philosopher. There's a very high levels of grooviness to that man. Has done some basics of, I want to say, Kali. And he's teaching the different flowing motions. And part of that is, yes, with the perfect stick, it works. And it lets you retain and keep momentum going while keeping you're drilling that while keeping all your joints nice and loose. But it's also applicable to anything roughly this long. And that is one of the lengths you will find frequently is this odd 2 foot length of pole or stick. And with such a thing, you can readily defend yourself if you are trained to do so. Okay. So that isn't my system. I kind of live in the very basic, very simple system that I teach. I spend a lot of time in the swordsman's version of elementary school. I'm sort of like the elementary teacher who has the really pretty cursive because they do cursive every year to teach it to the kids. Or they used to. Um, Finding a system and training in it and making sure that that the how do I phrase this? That what you training in mirrors what you carry. Okay. So if you're a longsword guy, you still can do walking stick, cane, uh, pool cue. Ditto with like great sword guys, definitely. You know, your mire guys, they can make these long things go. But if you are a mire guy, you need to make sure that you're looking into his take on dussocks and short weapons, because you will encounter, and more likely to be in the modern world, to encounter those. So train in those, because when things go wrong, before a fight is all mental training. Okay? What do I mean? That is the ability to observe, to comment on, to realize and lock into what is going on in a given situation. But if you if you are in the fight, one thing people who haven't been in a lot of it is you are not thinking. Okay. When the fight happens, like when you are sparring with intent, you aren't doing an educational sparring, you're not doing uh assessment sparring. You are sparring to see who can win, be it in a tournament, be it in a melee, whatever. When you have engaged, you should not be consciously thinking about what you have to do. Your hand should, and if you do it right, will do it for you. Now, this will occasionally make for socially surprising moments. Just like any martial art, where if somebody attempts to strike you even playfully, your body may react. And that's why you have to be careful on keeping the reins on that. But when you're out in the list field or whatever, guys, you're not going to go, oh, here comes that shot, I need to parry and counter. Nope. Your body's going to do what it's going to do. And if you've drilled consistently over and over, it will do the right thing. Just like if you're in the real world and somebody throws a punch at you and you've been trained, you will deflect the punch. Maybe, depending on if you're a boxer, your hands are going to come up. You're going to go into your form and you're going to solve the problem as you've been trained to solve it. And to the few people who occasionally come at me saying that boxing doesn't count as a martial art, you're wrong. By itself, is it a complete martial art? Is it enough? No, you should know some other things, in my opinion. Can it be enough if you're proficient? Absolutely. Absolutely. You just have to understand how to make it go. The trick is you need to pick a style that suits you. You have to find your fight. In finding your fight, you have to find the tools that I'm sorry, my nose itches right now, that suits you. for the purpose of your body mechanics, your situation, your fighting style, the arena, the scope of your combat. You need to make sure everything is tied together. And then you have to look at your EDC, your everyday carry. What are you carrying that works for you and your situation? And here's the thing. If you are an infantryman going out on patrol in some country that is hostile to the United States as a United States soldier or Marine or whatever, you might be carrying a large capacity, high caliber rifle, a sidearm, explosives, body armor, other medical gear, essentially, bedding of some sort, food prep of things of some sort. Last I checked, their gear can get up to like 200 pounds overall. You don't usually carry that every day when you go to Walmart. I mean, unless you live in Chicago. That's a joke. It's a joke. You're allowed to laugh at the funny parts. But you need to train in anything you have. And if you can't, you want to train in as close to a simulator of that. Because the training we do out of the love of what we do, the training of swordsmanship, the training of duels and, medieval history and things, or Renaissance or whatever period or world, region you're studying, are beautiful. And it's wonderful. And it's expression of the dedication of and training of the body and the temper of the spirit. But if it practically doesn't carry over to your situation in real life, where you may need similar skills, then you need to find another skill set to fill that void. And optimally, a synchronicity happens when you find something that you love and it fills that void. Now you found your fight. There are few things worse than the person who buys a firearm for home defense, puts it in their nightstand with a box of rounds next to it, never takes it to the range, never clears it, never works with it. If you don't know how to make that weapon go, you should not rely on that weapon. That doesn't matter what system you're using. That's like buying a stick shift, an old 50s truck and not knowing how to drive a stick shift. If you need it, it is useless to you without the skill set to power it. And what you need to find are the sources. So what you have to find is a mix of expertise and availability of the skills that you are seeking to gain. And then you have to find, the economics involved. Can you afford it? That's part of the availability. Because someone may be cheaper to deal with, but do they really know what they're talking about? Someone may be very expensive. I know a person who trained with a gentleman. I will not say his name so I do not get sued. He spent $180 for an hour with this gentleman. He theoretically learned one strike. Upon our meeting, he explained this. He went to fight me and attempted this. And it was done without calibration or control. In part because he learned it in a vacuum, and he didn't practice it, and he didn't learn what it's for. You understand? You have to understand the whys, not just the what. And then you have to understand the price. Now, if I were to carry a reasonable length flashlight everywhere I go, that's not an unreasonable thing for somebody to carry. If it happens to be a baglight style, aircraft aluminum stacked batteries, pick a diameter, y'all behave. Okay. Still not bad. You could use it for self-defense. And when somebody asks you, why are you carrying it? Well, officer, I have to park out by where the coyotes are. And I have the flashlight when I get off work so I can look around and make sure my car is safe. And it was in my hand when someone accosted me, so I hit him with it. It was the only thing I could think of. I was in fear of my life. Okay. This is a plausible situation. This is a reasonable situation. Now, for someone like Foxy, I'm sorry, Kitty, in the case you have to deploy the rope dart defensively, that might reflect poorly on you when you have to deal with the authorities. This is why I carry sturdy canes, but I rarely carry my sword canes. Because it can look a little too premeditated. A little too, Now, sometimes I carry my sword canes, especially if I am going out after dark, out here, because I would rather have a sword to defend myself and the sheath to keep myself propped if coyotes or something become problematic. But you don't want to have, but I don't necessarily want to carry one into formal functions. So you always have to process this. And if there is an interest, I will do this. I will record a video breaking down, like I have many times, the types of items you are likely to encounter and some applications based on length and composition. If that is a topic of interest, I will do it. But I will that one I will have to put behind the Patreon wall, which I do need to put some content up there just for my patrons. They keep telling me not to. They keep begging me not to, because they understand that I want to make everything free, but I do owe them some special things. So it is a challenge for me. There was some password issues. I have not been able to get into my Patreon for a bit. Just something glitched out. It wasn't a hack attempt. It just something went wrong. That should be rectified in the near future, according to the emails and such. At which point I'll be able to go back to my Patreon posts. I apologize for that delay. Let me see. We've had some comments come up. And teleports in, drops his like, tips his hat to the host, then grabs a seat in the dark corner of the room. Welcome aboard, Joe. And everyone's welcoming Joe. And yes, I did have to get rid of a gentleman, but I did not think anything involving WhatsApp would be appropriate for this channel. This is not fun conversation. I think it's more fun to go, Okay, so you're doing double dagger versus rapiers. How are you going to keep it going? In a tavern style battle, either fictionally or you know, in a fighting scenario, like a scenario bout. But when people ask me and they send me questions about the practical stuff, I try to address that. And like I said, I do need you guys to know, reach out to me if you want the Everything is a Weapon full lecture that I give my local adult guildies. Lord knows Trelane has heard it enough. You've heard pieces, but a condensed video of that could be in the works. Now, I also need to know what weapon styles you guys want me to lay out and explain for you. Because if I can, I will. If I am not, I don't feel my expertise is comfortable enough to teach it, then I will gladly give you people to reach out to who may be more adept or can give you other resources. Throw those knives. Oh, some person's calling me out. Yes, that is actually coming. That is in the works. I need to throw knives. I've been requested to video myself throwing knives. I just wasn't comfortable doing that while my nerves were damaged. But it's on my to-do list. We just have to get through these waves of random storms as usual. I have the new knife target up. The backyard is mostly managed. We will be doing a cleanup. And any of the local guildies, if you have sight of good, sturdy, like lawn furniture that we can leave out around the list field, around where the fire pit goes, let me know. I would, if you see it alongside the road. Oh, I'm not saying do it, but you could draw it. Oh, well, that's my thing. I'm trying to build up where I can actually do it. It's been a long time, and that's actually something done that is something I'm working to get back. I have a list of things that when I fell back and I had the assorted injuries and conditions flare up, I had to give up. And as I redevelop and as I get healthier, I'm getting them back. But if you want a discussion on it, let me do it safely. 1 second. Okay. This is the handiest knife knife simulator, not target, that I have. The trick with throwing a knife is it's all about the rotations. Okay. Now there are fancy ways of no spin throws. There are fancy underarm throws. There are all these elaborate throws that the pros can do. Excuse me. I am comfortable with very basic throws. I was taught a blade throw, and I always seem to mess it up when I have a handle throw. So I prefer a blade throw. I prefer large knives. A large throwing knife gives you much more stability. It's one of the great myths. So if we're talking throwing knives, a large throwing knife has the weight and length to maintain its gyroscopic action, because you're going to throw it and the knife is going to basically spin around a central axis in an arc, and what you measure is hopefully for it to do half a rotation. So I have to get way over here to get the motion on camera, but you're throwing it to tonk, and then it hits. Throwing knives is a form of marksmanship. Don't get messed up on that. It is trained and done like any other form of marksmanship. Darts, archery, firearms, to an extent, a good way of looking at siege engines. And yes, you are very much. You're doing fancy knife throws with a rope dart. Just can retrieve mine easier. I'm going to get, because I have a thought about that, but if you want to do it, pick either TW 22s, I believe, are Timberwolves, or medium or large Gilhibben knives. There are a lot of cheaper versions out there, but when it comes to a knife that you're throwing, you do not want to use the cheap versions. It's you're too likely to break. It's one of the few things where spending a little more money than you would want to in the beginning gives you a dramatic benefit in the long run. The other thing is, pick one style of knife and don't change it. Get a medium or large size knife, sharp, no burrs, solid, and make sure that you're going to throw it. Now, just like any firearms, you have to know what you're throwing at, what's behind it. In this case, is it loaded is a little hinky. But you never throw it at anything that isn't designated to stop it or you want to destroy. Now, we talked a lot of applications. I do not condone throwing knives as a weapon style. If you have a knife or a sword or whatever, it is much better in your hand and in your control than out of it. Because the last thing you want to do is give a knife to a bad guy. It's dumb. It just doesn't make sense. But with the right situation, throwing knives can be fun. It can be physically bolstering. You can build up a bit with it, and it's challenging. Now, throwing axes, there are varieties of axes you can throw. The trick with an axe is an axe usually wants to go a full rotation. So I'm going to shorten the flight. It goes through the air. Usually, because of the weight of the axe, there may be a higher arc to it that I have found. Throwing an axe or a hatchet is a great sport. It is a great game. And again, while I don't believe in losing weapons that way, I like to keep hold of them. It has applications. I just don't like it. You keep your axe here, so you have your axe if you need it. Keep your axe properly sharp, which this is really not. Really not. I need to sharpen that. But I have not seen my proper whetstone since the move, so it may be time to get a new whetstone. Darn. If you guys want to see how I do knife sharpening and axe sharpening, again, let me know. That can go on the curriculum. But we lost a few things, so Thesis says he tried axe throwing at last year's Ren Fair, wasn't very good at it. It takes a while. And Foxy says, I tried it once, got stick good a couple times, once went through the backboard. That shouldn't be on you. That means the backboard was insufficient. LOL, the ground doesn't get offended, don't worry. Yeah, or the board. I don't think so. I wanted to do it to say I could, at least the axe didn't come flying back at me. Mostly, I just over-rotated it and hit with the back instead of the blade. Okay. Let's diagnose that. You were hitting with this part? If you're hitting with this part, that means your rotation has a wobble. And it's actually going to cause a rotation on this axis. I have seen some people who, to get it to stick, they have to throw it with the head backwards. And they chuck it. And just in the way the weight rotates, it goes. If you find, we can diagnose real quick. Is you want to measure off your distance. I thought it was fun. And see, then you can do it again. Usually, not always, but very often, you'll get a 180-degree rotation in a single stride. And you have to measure it and see. So you have to do the same thing consistently, and you have to watch. So if you are hitting with the back of the knife, and yes, I have stuck the back of one of my knives because I was in a rather foul mood, where the dex, the dex doesn't win, but the strength does. That being said, that means you are about moving half a stride forward or back. If you are catching like this, you need to go back. If you are catching like this, you need to be closer. Let me look. Back, closer. Yeah. Optimally, it should be hitting at about 90 degrees. It should be sticking out. The blade should be as close to vertical as possible. When you can achieve these, then you slowly work towards accuracy. But it is doable. It's simple in concept, but complex in practice. Okay. And let's see. There are some others who have mastered the art of throwing shoes. The chancla toss is a real thing. Shoes can be deadly depending on type. I've had a friend who is a mother, and she could have just whipped a flip-flop. That woman could boomerang it around corners. It was devastating. Oh, it's fun, but it's something I need to do too many more times. I also think they were using axes that were too heavy and not in the greatest shape. Okay. Too heavy, the heavier the weapon, the easier it is to get it to stick. It holds the momentum and it hits harder. The how they were held up, that's a maintenance thing. I'd have to see it to know. I will say that I, as a youth, got to see the lumberjack games. And when they threw axes, they threw double-bladed felling axes. Full length. Woof. Bang. That's serious business. That's lumberjacks having fun. And that is a whole breed not to be messed with. But they also had chainsaw jugglers. So it was an interesting time. And let's see. Okay. Well, that tells you if you're in a situation where they have fixed distance from target, you could go back further, but you couldn't go any closer. Given that you are slightly taller than average, you would want to go back more likely than not. That fixed difference, one is to encourage consistency, and two, likely for insurance purposes, so that should the weapon bounce back, it's less likely to hit somebody. The Dex did it when needs to slam the door, but it shrank differently. But absolutely, that happens. And see, a lot of what I do and I learned because I wanted to do what my characters could do. It's just that simple. But especially with the art of throwing, any of your marksmanship things are going to be all about consistency. You have to do the same thing. Because if you have somebody who's all over the board, but a few of them are bullseyes, and you have somebody who's clustered in the, say, top right of the target, the easier person to fix is the person who's clustered because they are doing the exact same thing every time, which means depending on what it is, you adjust their stance, you adjust their grip, you adjust the way they're squeezing the trigger in the case of firearms. It can be fixed. If they're all over, what they need to do is work on getting to the thing, getting to a center, and then finding the center. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that for life. Because doing the slow, consistent thing works. It really does. It's like the stronger the bow, the less arc you have to do to get to a given target. Right? Now, if I pulled out DeWalt, my arrow drill, my longbow, which I don't know if I can even pull these days, anchored it and let go. I mean, I barely have to put a rise on that to most of the targets I've shot at. Just boom. If I'm using one of my light birding bows, whoop, I got to do a little artillery factoring there. You know how you get good at that? Practice. And that's the thing. If you are doing any weapons-based system, you have to practice. And Thesis says, I've gotten pretty good at throwing a couple of different folding knives. Whoo! That's a spicy comment. That is a spicy, spicy comment. Because the throwing of folding knives is such a it's such a test to the locking mechanism of your folding knife. Really, really, really don't recommend the throwing of folding knives. It can be done, and if you're really good at that, that's why you're having trouble with axe throwing. Because axe throwing is 90 degrees from knife throwing. If you think about where the handle presents to stick versus where the hilt presents to stick, it's literally going to be as far from feeling natural as possible to you. So that's interesting. And poor Stabby the second. I'm going to assume you guys are doing that in a very safe manner. Now, as we journey into next week, I've given you guys a good amount of homework. I need to know what you want from me, aside from the throwing knives, which I just need to basically get out and give a try. It's going to be rough on me, and I'm going to be sore. But we will see. and I will probably record it when I do so. We may discuss pole arms. We may discuss archery. I need to know what you guys want. And Foxy says, for safety, I don't touch the throwing of things. I also got a handful of cheap shuriken I used to throw. None of them are sharp, but they'll hit my homemade target. And that's fun. Please be careful. Several states still have bans on shuriken, including Indiana, which is why you won't see me throw them. But we've had a good talk. We kind of got around to some serious stuff. I hope it was entertaining for you guys. I'm seeing something that's reminding me of some other things I need to do. If you like this, please hit like on this video. Please share it around to any places you think would be interesting. There is a Historical Fencing Guild public group I recommend going to. Thesis and Foxy started a Discord for the fans of the show, so feel free to go there. Yes, some of them are quite cute. And the Star Trek.com badge that's just cool. I'm geeky enough to admit that's cool. Obviously, look at my shirt. But what I need from you guys is to help share this around. Blow darts and slingshots. I love me some wrist rocket action. And that reminds me, there is a crafting project involving slingshots I need to do. Blow darts I haven't messed with much, I'll be honest. I've done them, but slingshots I have a history with. It might be cute, but it flies like crud. Absolutely. We'll see. Most of the slingshots I use are based on latex tubing. I know the latex flat stuff is better, but I got to go with what I have. I still want to get out and try building and using a better sling than what I have, David and Goliath style, because that is on my to-do list personally. I will likely use golf balls or tennis balls for safety. Before I forget, Kitty, if you don't have a tennis ball style rope dart trainer, you might want to get a hold of one. That way you can actually use it in sparring if everybody is safe with face protection, groin protection. We've talked about armoring conventions. We can do that again later. God, my nose just itches. Somebody's talking about me. But with that, guys, we've had a fun conversation. My voice is starting to go out. So, and you've had an hour. So I will see you all next week for this. Oh, good. You made a trainer. Excellent. I'd like to see you have something that you can use impactfully on targets, on individuals, so that if you're carrying a rope dart trainer, you my voice is really being bad, so I'm gonna have to cut it, but you need to train with it against people at various ranges and moving. I have no doubt of your skill set, but that's just the practical advice I would give. Have a nice night, Nick. All right, guys. So you know the drill. Keep your eyes open. Keep your guard up. Be kind to yourself and each other. And as always, friends, support your local swordmaster. I'll see you next week.